President Bola Tinubu has approved the constitution of a committee comprising state governors and representatives of the federal government to explore the modalities for the establishment of state police. And that's our next subject on This Day Live, the Sunday talk show. That approval was given on Friday at a meeting the president held with 36 state governors, and which was attended by Vice President Kashim Shettima, the National Security Advisor, the Inspector General of Police, the Director General of the Department of State Services, and some ministers at State House, Abuja. President Tinubu also endorsed the training and equipping of forest rangers by subnational governments to safeguard human and natural resources in local communities as part of efforts to tackle the prevailing insecurity in the country. In the meantime, Chairman, Senate Committee on Media and Public Affairs, Senator Yemi Adaramudu, says both chambers of the National Assembly are ready to amend the nation's constitution to accommodate state police if the decentralization of the country's security architecture will end kidnappings, banditry, terrorism, and other crimes in the country. This comes as security experts, civil society organizations, and federalists commended President Bola Tinubu and the 36 state governors for considering to push for a legislation that will lead to the creation of state police. Tinubu had on Thursday met with state governors in Abuja, during which they considered the possibility of setting up state police. Mike Ejiofor is a former director of State Security Service, now known as Directorate of State Services, and will now link up with him for some expert opinion on the matter of insecurity in the land and the call for creation of state police as a practical solution. Thank you for joining us on This Day Live, Mr. Mike Ejiofor.
Thank you for having me.
Well, state police, I mean, this subject has been on the table for a very long time. And with the rise in insecurity in the country, is back on the table, with President Tinubu now saying he and the governors will work out modalities. And with the National Assembly saying, oh, state police could be the way forward. And of course, you recall that the National Political Conference 2014 recommended state police. As a security expert, do you think that that's a practical solution to the threat of terror, banditry, insurgency in the country?
Yeah, before I answer that question, you see, a lot of people make mistakes, and I've tried to correct it several times. The body organization established by law is the State Security Service, and it goes by that name. But the correspondence address of the State Security Service, if you like, call it a cover, is Department of State Services. So they are not two bodies, it's the same thing. Okay. So having said that, I think the President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria and the governors must be commended for this bold initiative in trying to establish the state police. You know, it takes a lot of process. Our constitution has to be amended to contain, to allow for this creation of state police, because the law provides that the only body charged with maintenance of internal security, or if you like, put the lead agency, is the Nigerian police force. So we cannot have two police forces. It's only a madman that continue to do something the same way and expect a different result. We've tried a lot of measures to contain our security challenges. And people will tell you, they come up with issues of, you know, rejig our security architecture. They call for removal, you call for reposting or placement of these service chiefs. And I can tell you that as long as we continue to operate the way we've been operating, our security remains the same way and the same challenge. So if you like, go and bring the best of hands, you know, from America to run our security agencies the way it is now. We're not going to have results. So the best way to go is establishment of the state police. You know, I have been I've been very vocal about the creation of state police, and one of the advocates that state police should be concerned. And my major reason is that security problems are local, so we must apply local solutions. If you take, for instance, you post people from different geopolitical zones. I'll give you an example. You post somebody from Maiduguri or Sokoto down to Oyo State or Bayelsa. First of all, you have the issue of the language barrier, cultural differences, religious differences, so people don't have confidence in the security agents in giving their information. Even if they have the need to give information, the language becomes a very big problem. In fact, before this cheering news from the president and the governors, I had always also advocated that, if you recall, that in the 80s, under Babangida's regime, he did make a move when he directed that the rank and file of the police be posted to their own geopolitical zone for obvious reasons, language barriers. And the command position and middle level can be manned from anybody from anywhere. And if you look at our police, Nigerian police, is too centralized for effectiveness. And not only that, is the state governments that have also been, because of lack of adequate funding, the governors have been helping the Nigerian police force and other federal security agencies, including the SSS, and to achieve the result. But they tell you they don't own it. They are just by name as chief security officer of the state. They don't have troops. They don't control anything. And come to think about it, Nigeria, for instance, all the states in Nigeria have one, if you like, quote, state police in the name of one vigilante or the other that has also been helping. If the advantages are far outweigh its disadvantages, because the argument is that the state governors will abuse it. And I'll give you maybe 3 examples on how effective the state police will be. If you go to the southwest, look at how effective Amotekun in Ondo State in particular has been, because they understand the terrain. They know the people are within that place. So even if you see a stranger, they will know. Then go to Bayelsa, the operation, I've forgotten what they call it, Operation Dolapo or whatever. You can see that crimes have reduced tremendously in Bayelsa because of the effectiveness of that task force. Then come to Abuja. You know, last month, everybody was apprehensive that Abuja was being overrun by bandits. But somebody who knows the terrain, who has been here, was appointed the commissioner of police and for the FCT. And ever since then, arrests are being made, and we can have some quiet, if you like, or sleeping with our eyes closed, but it must be sustained. What I'm just trying to tell you is that there are so many advantages in establishing the state police. The governors will own it.
As an advocate of state police, you've made a good case. But will it work? How are we going to fund it? Because these state governors, you know, may raise issues about funding. The same state governors that cannot pay salaries or pay pension arrears. And then even the main police that we have at the moment, the argument is that they are underfunded, they are under-equipped, they are under-resourced, and yet we're talking of state police. So the key thing about, you know, the modalities will be funding. Where would that funding come from?
Yeah, you have a valid point there. Perhaps not all the states can afford creation of a state police. For those who have serious security challenges and they have the funds. I tell you, Lagos, for instance, you remember that Lagos has its own trust fund States like Rivers, Bayelsa, that have these challenges should be able to fund it. They have been helping the federal security agencies. So the issue of funding, I think, shouldn't be a problem. And if you also recall that there's no way you can have any meaningful development without security, we must prioritize our security. The only fear I have is not the issue of funding. We have a lot of waste in this country. If you plug the loopholes, reduce corruption, we should be able to have, to fund our security agencies. Like the federal agencies, we agree that they are not adequately funded. But the money provided for, what are they doing? What have they been doing with it? This corruption pervades the society. And if we don't find ways of bringing down corruption in this country, it's going to give us a lot of problems. Like people will say that if we don't kill corruption, corruption will kill us. But God forbid that corruption will kill us. We must take the bull by the horn and confront our security challenges in the country. I don't think funding should be a major problem.
Okay, but about the abuse, are you really optimistic that it will not be abused, considering the fact that these governors who will be in charge of state police and, given more authority are politicians? And people cite how, local police was abused in the past, in the First Republic. But you are optimistic. You cited the example, is it the Fontagbe or so in Bayelsa, Amotekun, but, it may not apply generally. The optimism may not apply generally.
I'm very, very optimistic. It's all about leadership. Like I said, virtually every state has its own state police in the name of one task force or vigilante. It's about leadership. How many people have raised issue in Bayelsa that the governor has abused or used those people to hunt his political opponents? Look at his swearing in. Virtually everybody was there, even people who lost election. It's about leadership. So we must set example with good leadership. In Ondo State, I've not heard that the Amotekun have been used to abuse. But if, for instance, because you cannot rule out abuse, if somebody, or like a governor, abuses it, the courts are there for you to challenge and enforce your rights. So by the time we develop and see how these issues will work, I don't think we should throw away the baby with the bathwater. I want to seriously encourage the governors and the president to work out modalities to see that state police is established. If it's abused, there are checks. You see, some people will tell me they have been criticized severally for advocating for state police. They give you an example of the State Independent Electoral Commission. It's not the same. We're talking of enforcement of laws. The state police, for instance, will be restricted to some kind of simple offenses and misdemeanor. But if it goes beyond that to felony, I think they should hand over to the federal forces. But they should be able to be in a position to provide information which will now be transformed to intelligence, both to the police and the State Security Service. I think it's clear we must give it a try.
Okay, Mr. Ejiofor, as we begin to wrap up, tomorrow, Governor Zulum of Borno State has urged persons in the state to fast, voluntary fasting for a day, and to pray to address the issue of food prices and insecurity in the state, and call for divine intervention. Now, as a security person, is this recourse to divine intervention prayers part of the strategy that you guys in the security sector adopt to fast and pray?
You see, the problem is that
strategy?
Nigerians, well, I don't think that is a strategy. Nigerians pray a lot. Like I've always told my friends, that Nigerians are very religious, but ungodly. You don't tell me that prayers will work. Do the necessary things that you are expected to do, and things will work out. But why not ruling out the possibility of prayers? If you sit down and continue to pray without works, you are not going to have any results. So we agree that they should pray, but necessary mechanisms should be put in place to check the insecurity we are having in the country. Well, not just relying on prayers. Well, if you look at China and all this, is praying, giving them the results they are getting in China and all these Asian countries. It's hard work. So we must do the right thing to see that we get results.
On that note, I would like to thank you very much, Mike Ejiofor, for joining us on This Day Live, this Sunday talk show.